question I want to address today is, why is it that we find at times, I don't want to, God forbid, speak negatively about so many people at once, yeah, but why is it we find at times that people sometimes don't have a real connection and relationship with the creator of the world? Do you hear the question? Has anyone here ever attempted to have a relationship with the creator of the world? God. Anyone attempted, yeah? Has anyone ever felt like they have it? Sometimes, often, sometimes not. Right? I want to try to get down to why is it that we don't and how we can do it. And I'm going to share with you something which I think I told Rabbi Short to say that introduction. Right? So I say this in all seriousness. I believe this is to be one of the most crucial classes that a person can hear. The one that we heard last time out of the box, was that with you guys? Right? That was a tremendous prerequisite in order to get into this one. And it goes like this. You know, sometimes you smell something, and when you smell it, it brings you back to another place. Right? Everyone knows what I'm talking about? When they go out, they smell something, it brings them all the way back. Or when they taste something, again, you're right back where you were, whoever knows how long. Or you hear something, or you touch something. The mind is unbelievable, right? It takes us somewhere. I want to share with you an idea, an acronym, that God willing, you'll be able to remember this from time to time, even when I'm not with you, okay? And it goes like this. Call. So everybody got that? Okay, so now, every time you hear a bird, you'll think of me. Okay, but to bring it more out, I don't want it to be like that. I want to call. Stay with me now. And here we go. What's call? Call goes like this. This is the key. Like when I give this class as a title, I usually call it Artificial Resuscitation, the Key to Mitzvah Observance. I once gave this in San Diego, and the guy came to me after the class, who was a cardiac surgeon, and he's like, what did that have to do with artificial resuscitation? I was like, nothing, right? just wanted to get you to come. But the idea is it actually has a lot to do with it, as you're going to see. What's KAA? So we have 3 steps that if a person wants to be able to connect really with anything at all, but in particular we're going to focus in on Judaism and in God and having a real relationship, not just fake concepts like, oh yeah, that's a nice idea, I'm going to put in my time, I'll pray, and then I'm good to go for the day, but a real relationship where you're connected and thinking about it and living with it. How do we get to that? Number 1 of K is what? Number 1 of K is what we call, of KAA, is the idea of knowledge. Okay, now, some of you are probably not familiar that it's spelled with a K, so for you it's no. Okay, here we go. So we have like this, yeah? That's called knowledge. Knowledge is number 1. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. You've heard that before? That means to say that if your chain is made up of plastic, then you're as strong as the plastic. If your chain is made up of an unbelievably strong material, as strong as the strongest material, but you go ahead until the end, the last link is plastic, so then that chain almost means nothing. Does that make sense? Yeah? It means as much as it means, as much as plastic can hold. If your knowledge of something is at this level, as opposed to at this level, as opposed to at this level, so whatever level your knowledge is, that's the greatest ability you'll have to be connected with that thing. Does this make sense, people? So therefore, why is it that we sometimes have a problem or a hard time connecting? Let's talk about with God in particular. So I'll start with the question. How many people here believe that there's a God? Raise your hand if you believe that there's a God. Okay, how many people here know that there's a God? Know that there's a God. Okay, how do you know? That's right, hands down. Who said yes? Who knows? How do you know? The idea, nonetheless, is forget the idea of God. That was very quick for some of you. But what I'm saying is, forget just with anything in life. The more you know about something, and even, what's your name? Jared. And even Jared, if you can't know, even if you can't know something, you can come to a level of closeness, of a high level of faith, a high level of belief, right? Now, whatever that level is how strong you have a connection with it. Make sense? So I want to tell you something. I am egotistical enough to say that I'm amazing. But there's another thing I wanted to tell you. I'm egotistical enough to say that I believe that I could bring some pretty solid evidence that I would put into the category of knowledge that there's a God. I was once speaking at a speech. There was about 200 people that were there, all from observant backgrounds. And I started with the question, who here believes there's a God? They all raised their hand. I said, okay, who here knows there's a God? They all raised their hand. I said, okay, prove it. by their saying that they know. Prove it. Silence. So let's try again. Who here believes that there's a God? They all raise their hand. Who here knows that there's a God? Half of them raised their hand. I said, prove it. 1 second. Step 3. Who here believes there's a God? All of them. Who here knows there's a God? None of them. Then one woman goes, I went to Esha Torah. I'm like, you quiet, right? It is. But it is that sometimes we live a life without actually knowing what we're doing. Does that make sense? We go along, and this is very much connected to the last class about the idea of knowing yourself and of the idea of thinking out of the box, that we live our life without actually knowing what we're doing, but we go with it anyway, yeah? When we live our life without knowing, but just going with it, you can have a relationship with whatever that is, but it won't be as strong as if you actually know it. Does that make sense? So I believe the reason why, number one, why we don't necessarily, I say we, I don't mean everyone, I mean whoever it is, and even those who have on some level, why we don't have that unbelievable, real connection with God, it's because, well, we don't really know. Or what level do we know? Does this make sense so far? There was a great rabbi by the name of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Anyone heard of him before? Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. And he says the following idea. What is the greatest distance that exists in this world? Anyone heard this? The greatest distance that exists in this world is the distance between our head and our heart. That which we know and that which we, I would say it differently, know. Do you get it? Right? That which you know and that which you, coming this summer. There's a difference between the idea of with action. Get down, double the action. Get down again, right? We understand? The idea is of what you know and that which you have internalized. Example. Does anyone here know someone that smokes cigarettes? Okay? Now, person goes and they smoke cigarettes. Does anyone here think that it is good for you to smoke cigarettes? Please don't answer if you really do. Right? That it's good for you. No one has that thought. Yet you go over a guy who's smoking a cigarette, he's like, doing his thing, and you walk over, you're like, excuse me, sir, do you know that's bad for you? He's like, are you serious? No one ever, thank you. No one ever told me that. Thank you so much. Somebody get me lettuce, right? And see what happens over here. That a person, everybody knows smoking is bad. Nobody thinks that it's good. No one's like, my doctor said it was good for me. Nobody says that. We all know it's bad. Then why do people still smoke? Okay, they're addicted, I got it. But you have to substitute that with whatever the situations would take away the word addiction. Why do we do things even though we know that they're bad? The answer is because you might know, but you don't know. You might know, but you haven't internalized. You might have it in your head, but you don't got it in your heart. Everybody understand that idea? When a person can know something intellectually, or you actually experience something and feel something and go through something, it's a different world. Is that right? Is that right? It's unbelievable. The difference between internalizing and the difference between actually knowing something. It will change your world. It will change everything. I'll give you an example to show you what I'm talking about, the difference in head and heart. A person goes ahead. Imagine I were to tell you outside right now. What's your name? Allison. Allison. Okay. 2 L's? Yes. 2 S's? No. Okay, Allison. Right outside this room, there's someone on the floor and they're bleeding. Everyone saw that reaction, right? All right. So they're bleeding. I'm like, what do you want from me, right? Okay, right? You do or you don't? It sounded like you did. Right? You're like, all right. Right? May I have a cup? Okay, so now you go ahead. But now you walk outside, and you're like this, oh my goodness! Oh, there's blood! Now, I just told you that. Well, why are you all of a sudden? Everybody hear what's going on? Because at one point, yeah, you know, but you don't really get it. You know, and I might even be able to bring evidence to you. Yeah? I could show video footage even, but from a blurry thing that you're not seeing it clear, whatever. But you get the idea that you know it's there. But then you go and you see it. It's like a whole new world. It's a whole new world. How does a person take it from the head and put it into the heart? This is what we're talking about. Now, your issue, and I say it as an issue, right? Because I'm saying I come from the same background. You're similar. I don't know the same, but similar background, right? It's the same? Horribly?
Probably not.
Probably not? It's probably the same. But your psychological problem, right, that I happen to share is called orthodoxy. But I'll explain to you what I mean by that. God forbid for me to make fun of it. I don't want you to misunderstand. I don't mean orthodoxy is a problem. I mean to say that the way that I was shown certain things was a problem, right? And I'll explain it to you clearly. So the idea is that how does a person take it from the head, put it into the heart? How do we take that idea which we know and make it what we know, which will actually start impacting our lives and actually doing something? That's number 2. What's number 2? Action. Who said it? What's your name? Jeremy. How did you know that, Jeremy? Bam. Okay, that's something called, no, how did you really, okay, let's say what? Something called action. This is an amazing idea, which you've all heard before. It applies in everything in life. We call it fake it till you make it. You heard that before? Fake it till you make it. Even if something is not true, if you do it, it starts to become a part of you. True or false? Even if something is not true, when you do it, it becomes a part of you. Like we know the famous question, which is still asked on the radio today, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me no more. Everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? So the idea is like this, yeah? We have the fine. Okay, so like this, yeah? So when does a person go ahead? When does a person come and love something? There's a very famous piece by someone named Rav Dessler. He says like that, if you could just remind them to close the door. Right there, go. So when does a person go ahead? So we know that the idea of love, how does a person come to love? How do you say love in Hebrew? Say it again. Ahava. Okay, I'm going to make this as clear as I can for you. Okay, ahava. Okay, that's how you say love. Anybody know what the root word of ahava is? I'll give you a hint. It's on the board. Have. Very good. The root of ahava is have. If you break it down further, it's ohev, ahav. But the root of it, the real root, is have. What does have mean? Anyone know? We say it every Shabbat. Havu Lashem right? What is havu? Havu Lashem. What? Bam! Because you're smart or you have help. Ideas, what do we got over there? Yeah? So because I'm smart. Right? Have means to give. When a person gives towards something, they come to love that thing. Number 2 is action. When you act on something, when you do something, whether it's true or false, it becomes a part of you. Do you hear that? Does this make sense, people? You're living this. Every one of you is living this right now. You're all living this. You are involved with what you're involved with because you've been involved with it for so long. When you're involved with something and you're doing something, you're investing in something, it becomes a part of you. This is why you got to be very careful what you invest in. I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about your life. What do you invest in? What do you read? What do you watch? What do you do? What are you involved with? These things are going to have a massive impact on your psyche. They're going to be connected. When you act on something, so there's a very famous concept in Judaism, the chitzonius affect the panemius. Outward affect the inward. When you pretend to do something, it starts to become part of you. Yeah, what do you do, for example? Let's even try this. I want to try this. I don't know if you're going to... Humor me, people. Humor me. Humor me. Can everyone stand up, please? Stand up. Yeah, here we go. I've never done this before, right? Humor me for a moment. If everyone could please just do this, just lift your hands up and go like this. And while you're doing this, I want you to pretend like you're grabbing bears from the sky. Ready? Jump and grab bears. Everybody jump and grab bears. Yeah, come on, baby. Okay. Okay, stop. Everybody sit down. Sit down. Quickly sit down. Now, just look around the room for a second. Look at everybody. Look at each other for a moment. And you'll notice and you'll be able to tell. I'm not going to say who it is because it's not nice, but I was watching some of you. Some of you were just doing this. Those who were doing this, when you sat down, were doing this. Some of you were doing, put your hands in there. And when you sat down, you were like this. How come? Because when you do this, it's hard to sit down and then go. It affects you, right? It has an impact you. You wake up and you had a bad day, but you just woke up. How could you have such a bad day? But you had a bad day, you understand? And you're like, yeah, I got a feeling that tonight's gonna be a bad night. You're just in a bad mood, right? How do you get out of that mood? Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat. How do you get out of that mood? Pretend like you're out of that mood. Just pretend like you're out of that mood. Just start going like this. If you do it outside, it's even better, right? Just go like this, yeah? In front of a precinct, it'll always help, right? Just go like this, you understand? Just go like that. Why? Because chitzonius affect the panemius, acher pu'ulasav nimshachos halev. After our action, our heart is drawn. After our actions, our heart is drawn. After our actions, our heart is drawn. When you start doing something, your heart gets pulled towards it. Do you get that? Does that make sense? When you start acting on something, you start doing it, it starts to become a part of you. When you start speaking about it, and you start, does anybody here know someone who's a real health, like crazy health person? Right? You know someone? Okay, what's your name? Jeremy spoke. Jeremy, do you know these people that do that, this particular person, you have someone you're thinking of? Yes. Do they ever talk about health? All the time. Do they ever do it? Yes. Do they ever talk about it? All the time. Do they ever do what they're talking about? But do they ever talk about it, right? And it drives you crazy, you understand? You could be eating lettuce and they'll tell you there's a healthier lettuce. You understand? You're like, dude, it's not a donut, all right? I'm eating lettuce. Leave me alone. Like, you should have, seriously, cucumbers and zucchini is a little bit better for the heart. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, back off. But they talk about it, they do it, they talk about it, they talk about it, they do it, they talk about it. All of a sudden, nobody's born like that. Nobody is born with, opens their eyes and goes, cauliflower, right? Nobody wants it, right? It's only when somebody gets you into it. Then you start doing it. I want to tell you something. It's unbelievable. When you have a knowledge about something, you start acting on it, how it changes your life. I'll tell you personally. I'm gonna do a little fitness pitch for you. So I was in my early 20s. I wasn't doing well at all. I was in the upwards of 250 pounds. And you know what I said? I got to lose some weight. It really wasn't even me. It was my doctor. He said, son. I was like, Dad? He goes, no, it's an expression. And then I go, so what is it? And he goes, you are overweight. And I said, seriously, I couldn't tell. And then he goes and he says, but the problem is that you have high blood pressure in your early 20s. And by the way, this is all true. And he says, you got to lose weight. And I was like, why? He said, you're going to die. Yeah? Your cholesterol thing is like through the roof. You know, LDL, HDL, whatever. I'm saying whatever. I had like PDL. I don't know. It formed into like another. I don't know what it was. Yeah? And he's like, you got to change. Okay, so you start learning about this stuff, right? Okay, you learn about cholesterol and you learn about carbohydrates and you learn about other stuff. Okay, it's really nice and whatever, but like then you start living it. And I want to tell you personally, there was a time when I went through this, I lost 50 pounds. I went down 50 pounds, and now you can see this slim, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, gotta work for this. And I walk by a bakery. Now I'm off it now. I'm off it. I mean, I'm trying to get back, I'm off and on. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I'm an addict. But the idea is what? It's for another time. When I walk by, when I was into it, I would walk by like a store with like baked goods in the front. I would just see sticks of margarine and like hills of like sugar. That's what I would see. And then I noticed I was in the kitchen. When I came out, I saw the same thing. That's all I saw. It's beautiful, delicious, rugaluk, like cakes and whatever. But then when you get what it is, bam, in the heart, because I started doing it, then you become that crazy guy. And everyone's like, back off. You understand? But when you start acting on something, then it starts to take it and starts to pull it down. Okay, let's take it a step further. Here comes the biggie. What's your first name? Leanne. Now we're going to get to Leanne. This depends on your background tremendously, but it will apply. It certainly applies to you in other areas of life, but it will apply to you if you start to build a real relationship with the Creator of the world. It will start to apply with you, and it goes like this. What about those people who have knowledge and they have action? They know what they're doing. They're acting on it. And again, get it clear. When you act on something, it changes the way that you live. You will literally change. I want to give you one more example of it before I go into the third one. Have you ever worn a tuxedo before? Yeah. You've worn a tux? A nice tux before? Yeah. Have you ever worn like a nice ball gown before? You like a nice one? You ever wear a gown? Good. Okay. You're like, yes. Right over here. Yeah? All right. If you've ever worn like a nice suit, a nice tuxedo, a nice skirt, a nice dress, a nice whatever it is, what happens to you? You start to walk differently. You literally walk differently. A person's wearing like shorts and a t-shirt, right? Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Hey, what's going on? Yeah. Person puts on a suit, it's like, hello. Is it me you're looking for? Right? And all of a sudden, it becomes like you change. And we literally stand up straight. We feel better, right? Dress for success. You've heard of the idea before? That's the idea of fake it till you make it. Okay, that's number two. Now to number three. Number three is how come a person who has knowledge, they have action, they go ahead, they know about success, they get dressed up for success, but they're still not being successful. They're still not having that connection. What's going on? An example in terms of Judaism, I'll tell you me. I can get up every day. I woke up this morning, and I went to go pray. And then after I went to go pray, I came home. And then I took my kids to school. Then I came home, and then I ate something. And then I came here. I played with my daughter a little. Then I came here. It's fun. And then I came here. Now, what did I do is exactly what I do every day. Wake up in the morning, go pray. Come home, do this. Okay, what am I going to do tomorrow? Probably wake up in the morning, go pray. Come here, etc. The whole thing, same thing. Day in and day out, day in and day out. We get into what's called a routine, a habit. We get into a regular state of being, right? Where what are we doing now? We're no longer actually living actively, we're passively living. What happens when you passively live? You're not really living. It becomes this idea, like when you say to someone when you walk by them, it's so invested in our culture, we don't even notice how much it's come into us, right? That you walk by someone, what is the response when somebody walks by to you and says, hi, good morning, what's the response? Good morning. Okay, I'm helping you out. That was a setup for the next one. You ready? Then a person goes, how are you? What's the response? Nope. Right? How are you? You ever walk by someone like, hey. What if they walk by going, how are you? How are you? What's up? What's up? It's become a greeting that we don't even think about anymore. That it's actually like we didn't even know we said it. To the extent that if you go, how are you? He goes, how are you? And you go, actually things are not going so well. And they're like, what? Why are you telling me? Like you just asked. No, I didn't. I just said hello. No, you said how are you? But we don't even notice it, right? Because we get into a routine where we just talk without really thinking about it. What's number 3? What's number 3? Awareness. Beautiful. See something, say something. Okay, here's what? That's the idea of awesome. Good, right? But I'm referencing you will be awesome after you do this. Awareness. Knowing what you're doing, realizing what you've done, seeing what you've been involved with. I don't know about all of us, but how many of us can go through a day and at the end of the day stop and think, what did I do today? Besides the idea of what did you eat, what did I do? You ever get confused like what day it is? You're like, especially here. Here it's like completely, you don't even know where you are, right? Florida, right? Let alone ideas, yeah? But the concept is, how many of us go through our day that we don't even know what we did, right? Because we're just doing. It's not a conscious way of living, it's an unconscious way. Do we see what I'm saying over here? That's living a life of, even this is fine, because the bottom line is, if it's this and not no, then what happens? We're living in some areas like that. And a person who's living a life like that, what happens? Okay for you. Okay, you grew up observant somewhat? Just for you. Very? Have you ever prayed Shemona Esrei before? You said Shemona Esrei before? Okay, now, I'm sorry for those who don't understand what I'm going to say because I don't know all the backgrounds here. Just a quick understanding. Shemona Esrei, Amidah, right, which is one of the main parts of the prayer service where everyone's very quiet and people are like going like that, right? And the women, they go like this, saying they do that, right, the different things. Okay, now, have you ever been davening Shemona Esrei and in the middle of Shemona Esrei wonder, where am I up to? Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever had a situation before where you finished and you're like, did I say Yalav Yavo? The idea is what? Is that we don't have the awareness. That's it. You're davening Shemona Esrei. It's not just because you don't know what you're saying. There are times when you're in the middle of saying words you don't even know what you're saying, but you know exactly where you are. There are other times when you're doing Shemona Esrei. For those who grew up observant, have done this before, you're doing your thing, and you're like, where am I up to? All of a sudden you go like this. You're like, modim, right? You're up to that part of the Shemona Esrei, right? We go and we live our lives just with saying it. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about also. Is that for me? Thanks so much. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nihiyeh b'dvaro. How long does it take to say the bracha shehakol? How long does it take that was on purpose, right? I wouldn't randomly, I need water, right? And there's a reason I did that. How long? I just said, for those who aren't familiar, I just said the bracha shehakol. How long does it take to say the bracha shehakol? 10 seconds? Let's time it. Ready? Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, shehakol nihiyeh b'dvaro. That was 6.5 seconds. Was that fast or slow? Do you normally see people doing that? How long does it usually take? 3 seconds. Ready? 2 seconds? The answer is it depends. How far is the cup? from your mouth. If it's here, it's 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, shkanfro. Person walks in the room and goes, hey, I know you spoke Japanese, konnichiwa, right? I had no idea what you're saying. And then person wonders, I don't understand why I don't have a relationship with the creator of the world. Maybe because you don't even know what you just said. But let alone you didn't even know that you said something. You hear it? We live our lives when we just move. And we don't stop to think. We just keep going and going and going. And we don't live with the awareness. And when a person lives their life, even if you have knowledge, and even if you have action, if you don't have awareness, it's as if you didn't do it. Do you get it? I thought before we said fake it till you make it worse. That depends. Only if it's something which isn't something which you're totally used to. If you're doing it every day and it becomes just the norm that you don't even think about it, bye honey, I love you, kiss. Isn't that a deep, meaningful relationship? Isn't that so loving and caring? You never tell me you love you. What do you mean? I told you 12 times, love you, bye, love you, bye, love you, bye, love you, bye. That doesn't mean anything. When was the last time you called up your parent or someone close to you, whoever it is, and you said to them, you know, I want you to know I love you. Not just love you. But the real thing, no Instagrams, right? You understand? You send your mom an Instagram, but with the, Happy New Year, right? It's just what? No. But you know what? It's probably better than what some of you probably sent, you know? You don't even know what you sent. Anyway, the point is what? Is the idea of living a life of awareness. This is key. Every one of these things that I said so far requires hours on each one of them. I don't mean of work. That requires weeks. I mean of just discussions. We can break each one of these down a lot further. This is, again, is just a soundbite of an introduction to it. What I want to do now is just to go ahead and give you a practical way of doing this. A practical way. Now, what I mean by that is that there are plenty of things that we do that we're not even paying attention to what we're doing. There's plenty of classes that we hear. Has anybody ever heard a class before and been inspired? Anyone? Been inspired before? Never happened? Oh, did? All right. All right. You've been inspired before? Who here has never been inspired? Never. Okay, that works better. Okay, so if you've ever been inspired, please keep your hand down. Excellent. So now, if a person's been inspired and then they go on with life and all of a sudden they're not as inspired anymore. Happened? What's going on? Happens time and time again. You understand? Just over. If you look and you search, you'll find it time after time. Now what? You just live time after, and what happens time after, and what happens is you end up with nothing. What's going on here? I want to give you something that can take this speech. Hopefully, I've inspired some of you. I want to give you from this idea something which is practical that you could take home, make real, and actually begin forging a relationship, or continue forging that relationship, or building stronger that idea that we have. Okay, here we go. First, let's put everything in perspective. Quick recap of everything we did. End off with this one point. Then we'll take any questions, comments, stories, jokes, attacks, and I'll leave over a couple minutes for that. Here we go. So we started beginning very simply. Paul. Whoa. Call. How does a person go out and we'll go and remember certain things? You smell something, taste something, see something, all of a sudden you remember it. Every time you see a bird, I want you to remember a relationship with God. How come you have an idea that people don't have a relationship with God? What's happening over here? And so people a lot of people are trying. How do people believe? How do people know? Prove it. Bam. You can never know anything. I'm kidding, right? The idea is what? How did a person get to such an idea? Well, get a little bit further. Number one, the idea of knowledge. You have to know it's chain is only strong as its weakest link. If the weakest link is plastic, understand that the relationship is going to be with God as much as it is. If you don't know, but you're just going with it, wonderful. If you're just going with that emotional experience, and what happens is if you don't have that anymore, it's just going to be gone. Which means you have to have that knowledge. There's so much more to tell you. I can't even. I feel I'm cheating you. I'm cheating you. There's so much more to tell you. And that is what the idea is. Number one is knowledge. It doesn't have to be number one in this order. I'm just pointing out number one is knowledge. Reference what we're saying. Otherwise, it's aka, and it doesn't really work. All right. That's knowledge. Number two, how do we take here and get it from up here to down over here? How does a person take it, what and brings it from here to here to bring it down in a way that all of a sudden it's actually real? Not just the concept of this blood. No, that's fine. That's wonderful, right? There's one, no, my gosh, it's blood, right? And it says, how do we get to that? And it's okay. One idea is a seeing, because the seeing in that case, what happens, it brings it down over here to the way of like, oh my goodness. When a person goes and deals with it, fake it till you make it, dress for success, understand that you want It has an impact on the way that you live. It has an impact on the way you do it. When you act on something, it starts to be a part of you. What is the idea of love? When you love something, ava, hav. When you give to something, it starts to become part of you. You invest, you put into it. Then what happens? You start to love that. Unfortunately, it can be in negative ways. And fortunately, it can be in very positive ways. Which is why you got to be very careful. If you don't understand this, if you're in terms of Judaism, because you have a hard time with that, or you're not interested, or whatever it is, Use it in some other area of your life. Be careful what you invest in. Be very careful what you invest in, because when you start it, you're starting to forge relationships, whether you like it or not, and those things have deep impacts on you in a way that you start to actually be connected with it, even if you don't want to be. That's idea number 2. When you start to act on it, you put on a nice dress, right? Or you go ahead, you wear a nice suit. All of a sudden, it's like, hello, right? And all of a sudden, you change to another person. You act on something becomes a part of you. Ladeth, right? When you talk about it, and you talk about it, and you talk about it, and you do it, and you do it, and you talk about it, and you do it, and you talk about it, I lost 50 pounds. What happens? All of a sudden, it becomes a part of you, and then it becomes real to you in a way that you want to live with it and continue. So then how come you have people that have knowledge and they have the action, but they're not connected? Number 3 is awareness. If you know, but it's Gavriel, it's not going to mean anything to you, right? If you're speaking Japanese and you don't speak Japanese, how's it going to help? Therefore, you have to go ahead and actually learn and know. Once a person learns and knows, then all of a sudden they can get to the next idea that they can have this awareness. Is that clear? Okay, did we miss anything? All right, end off with the following idea, and this is a practical advice I want to give you. It's one example I give across the board. I find it personally to be very powerful, and I think that it can also affect other people. There's a prayer that we say when we wake up in the morning. From the moment you wake up until you put on your makeup, you say a little prayer for him. Moda'ani. What is the Moda'ani? When you wake up in the morning, we say this prayer, which says, Moda'ani lefanecha. I give gratitude, I give thanks, I give recognition, I give acknowledgement. Lefanecha, before you. Melech chai v'kayom, the living and eternal King. She'echazarta bi nishmasi b'chemla, you return into me, my soul. She'echazarta bi nishmasi, my soul, with graciousness. Rabbi emunasecha, great is your faith. What's great is your faith mean? What is great is your faith? Okay, let's try again in English. Thank you, God, for giving me back my soul. Great is your faith. What does that mean? Interesting. I would probably venture to say that most of you who have ever said it didn't even know the English at all. And those who did know the English don't even know what the English means. And I don't mean because of the art school translation of Godeth, his laudaciousness of his Godethness. Yeah? What does it mean? Great is your faith. Great is your faith in me that I'm actually going to do something with my life. We messed it up yesterday. We totally demolished it. Great is your faith in me that I'm actually going to do something with it. When we say these words, why this prayer and not something else? You can do anything you want. I'm just giving you a suggestion if you want to start the things turning, to be able to go ahead and start to connect. Start to say Moda'ani. Why? Because when you say Moda'ani, when you start to speak about something, it starts to become part of your consciousness, right? When you're aware of the fact that you're speaking about it, it's even more. If you say it in Hebrew, I suggest saying it in English. If you say it in English, I suggest saying it in Hebrew. Don't do it in Spanish unless you speak it. But do it in a language that you're going to understand and something that's not going to go brrr, that you're actually going to say it in a way that you're thinking about it. And when you start your day thinking about it, it affects the rest of your day. Is that right? When you start your day thinking about something, does it not affect the rest of your day? Start your day on the wrong foot, the rest of the day. Start your day on the right foot, the rest of the day. Start your day thinking about God, the rest of your day. Start your day thinking of Satan. I don't want to get personal. But it is what happens the rest of your day. Therefore, I suggest doing that. What? Slowly but surely, thinking about it, saying it. And I'll throw out just one cool thing to end with. There was a study that was done that we know that it says when you wake up in the morning, the book of Jewish law says that a person is supposed to Yisgaber ka'ari lamad baboker lavodas bar. Fortalece como de leon. You want to strengthen yourself like a lion to get up in the morning. Jump out of bed. But comes along the Talmud in Gittin on page 70 and says, don't really jump out of bed. It's not safe. If you've been sleeping a whole night in one position, right? Then you wake up and you jump out, it's just not good for your body. You should wait a little bit and then get up. How long should you wait? So there was a study done by a neurologist who came along and they found that the optimal amount of time to wait from the time you wake up until you get up is 12 seconds. 12 seconds to let everything come back to where it needs to be in order to get up. Modeh ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayom shehechazarta bi nishmati b'chemla rabba emunatecha. 12 words. If we spend a second on each word, and we digest them, and we think about it, and we start to act on it, get the knowledge behind it, live with it, go with it, be aware with it, then we have a real relationship. It's no longer an esoteric concept. It's something we live with and we go through our day with in a way which is meaningful and practical. Any questions, comments, stories, jokes, attacks, please keep them verbal, non-physical. Tis been a placer. Thank you so much. See you when I see everyone. Take care. Bye.